Hi, my name is Bob and I'm renovating this 1973 Egg Harbor Sportfish boat. Well, hello everyone, welcome to Renovation Sportfish. In this episode we kind of continue on with the ceiling above my head, or the overhead is what we call it here. This is the future galley area, and in the last episode I put in a bunch of cleats and support pieces and some trim and things, and now we're just going to finish that all up, sand it all, put some more of the beam caps in the galley area, and then do a little varnish on it. And that should wrap up the work here in the interior, or I should say it will wrap up the work here in the interior, because after I did that I haven't done anything else inside here except for clean things and mess things up. So with that, we'll get started on finishing this work off. Okay, so for today we're going to finish putting the trim around the door opening over here. I've got one larger piece of trim that has to go in. It's already cut. I showed fitting that piece, which was a little tricky on one of the ends. But that piece will be going in today, and I'm also going to be putting in some more beam caps, which I put in the larger ones already, 6 large ones already. The same thing. Here's one I'm going to be putting in today. It's the same type of piece except it's just shorter. So I got 3 of these to put in as well, and then one more small narrow piece that's going to be kind of over in the galley area against one of these beam caps here, and that should do it for now. There's a few other things I have to do, but that's all I'm going to try to tackle today. Hopefully get these plugged as well, so tomorrow I can, or the next time I'm over here, I can start cutting those off and getting everything sanded and ready for varnish. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do today is trim off this piece of trim here to the right length. I just had it temporarily clamped up here because what I have to do is I have to take this ceiling beam piece, and maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. I did trim part of this piece off. I trimmed off this whole corner because it's going to go up in this area like this. I also have, you may not be able to see it, but there's a line, pencil line, for where I want to center it on the beam. That's where I'll also put my plugs when I put those in. So what I have to do is get this up here in the right spot and make sure it's centered on the beam, and then mark where it's going to be cut, which is right there. Now I'll cut it. So now the piece is fitted, and you can see all my little marks where I'm going to be putting my screws. So now that piece of trim is installed, now the next thing I'm going to do is fit these beam caps. So the beam caps fit up into these areas right here, but there's a little bit of an angle I have to cut on this end. So the problem with this now is I can't transfer this to my miter saw because I can't get it flat. Transfer it to the tip of the blade. So what I'm going to do is just transfer that angle to a piece of scrap wood and then loosen it up Oops. Line it up here as good as I can and retighten it up. And yeah, now I can transfer it to the blade. The ends still have to be cut down because you can see they're a little long compared to the ones I already installed. That's because I'm going to put a soffit here and I gotta cut all those off. So that's my next step, is to mark all those and cut those, and then I'll install them. There's a few little things I have to do. Some of the ends are a little twisted. I don't know, maybe you can see on this one. The beams are actually twisted, so that one maybe not too bad. This one definitely twisted. The right side is a lot lower than the left side. So I'm gonna have to shim it. Once I cut it off, I'll figure it out, but this one's pretty good. So anyways, that's my next step. Well, hello everyone, I'm back here at the boat again, and last time I was here, I finished off all the trim for these access panels above my head. I also fit some beam caps over the galley area. I had a little issue with those. My plan was actually to put those in as well, but I ran into an issue. Here's one of them. I just drilled all the screws, saying, oh yeah, they're all 6 inches apart. So I drilled them all, fit them up there, it was fine. Went to mark off for where I was going to trim them on the end, and I found out that I was going to have to cut it right where, or really close to where I had drilled the last hole. And then I remembered, oh yeah, the last screw was only 5 inches away from the previous one. So I had two options: either make new pieces, which I'd have to make 3 of them, or plug these and use these. I ended up going with the plugging idea because I did buy extra wood, but it's different piece of wood. These all came from the same piece of lumber, so the grain all matches, the color matches. That might be a little bit off on those 3. So anyways, I plugged the end hole. I'll show you here, and hopefully you can see that. I plug and the line where I have to trim it. So today I'm going to cut these to the right length and hopefully install all 3 of these. I got to do a little shimming on a couple of them. And for the trim above my head here, I did end up putting all the plugs in last time I was here, and then well, not last time, at the time I did this, and then last time I was here, which was last night in a pouring rainstorm, I trimmed all the plugs and sanded everything. So all that is ready to go. It's all good and sanded and ready to be varnished. So I'll show you how that came out, and we'll get started on these things. So here's the finished trim where the access panels will go. You can see I plugged all the screw holes. Everything came out good. I sanded it all last night. Even these holes over here I plugged plugs were on an angle, but they look fine. They don't even look too oblong or anything. They look okay. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with it. Once I get these other pieces in today, hopefully by the weekend, it's Wednesday now, hopefully by the weekend I can varnish this stuff. And then we'll see how that goes. Plans always don't work out the way you want them to. So I thought I'd show how I was going to put these panels up here. I haven't made these panels yet, but these access panels, I just have a scrap of mahogany here just to show for demonstration. So it'll fit up in this area, and I'll screw it in probably with maybe 3 screws along the length here on each side, and they'll just be with some finished washers similar to that right there, and that'll be it. I doubt I do these in mahogany with a mahogany panel. I could, but I think there's a little bit of too much mahogany going on already, so I'm just going to probably do a white panel similar to the ceiling pieces, but don't put the beads in there. Just a nice flat white piece. So that's what it should look like. So these are the pieces that I already have cut at an angle. So to get the angle, I just put my little bevel gauge over here. Got the angle. Now cutting it, I have to, my saw blade only tips to the left, so I always have to think about this, even though I've done things a million times. So that's the way it has to be. So I set up my blade at the right angle. There it is. Looks pretty good. So now I'll just cut the piece of wood. I won't cut it right on the line the first time. I'll cut a test piece first just to make sure, because I don't want to screw it up on the first shot. And there you go. So here's the boards after I've trimmed them, and you can see how close those plugs are to the ends. This one right here is right on there. It actually goes over the end. And I'll show you the end after I cut it. And you can see where I got the thickened epoxy in there, and goes all the way through. So yeah, well, you know, you gotta live with some things sometimes, and I think it'll be alright. The plugs match good, and you know, that one's a little lighter, but yeah, once they're varnished, I think it'll be fine. So now I'm going to install. So I got the first 2 pieces in. You saw me put this one in here, and then I just installed this second one. Went in just as easy as the first one. No real issues with twisting or anything crazy with these 2 pieces. So I figured I'd get those done first. Now I have to work on this third piece. And in this case, I'll hold it up here. And if that's flat, you can see, maybe you can, this whole beam, the right side is higher than the left in this shot. So the whole beam is twisted in that direction. So really, to get it straight, I have to shim this right side, the entire right side. The same thing on this end. That's how it would normally be. You can see it's higher on this case on the left side. So I have to shim this whole thing out. So what I'm going to do is just make little shims. I'm not going to do one on the whole length. It's very little. At each hole, I'll epoxy up a little piece of shim, and then I'll put a little extra epoxy along the whole bottom to make up the gap. So that once it's screwed up and it's dried, it'll be all tight up there nice. So that's what I gotta do, figure out what that shim size is, and cut a few shims and throw them up in there and install this piece. Here we go, there's my shims. I figured out how thick they had to be. They need to be a little thicker actually down on this end than the other side. But I just cut some really thin pieces on my saw and just broke them off. I've got them just kind of stuck on there with a little bit of West System 610 epoxy right here. This is kind of what I'm using to attach them anyways. And now I'll just put extra along the whole thing so it'll fill the whole gap along there once it's up, and should be good to go. Nice and level with that other piece, and come back over here and you can see the little chunk I left sticking out, and if you look this way it's much more level on there. You can see how the beam twists. But now I just gotta break off that little chunk, and that'll be it. So I just finished plugging all those holes, but I wanted to show something that I just discovered the other day. I've always done plugs with a little brush, but I didn't have a brush the other day, so I cut off this popsicle stick, which I use usually to put little fillets if I want a real small fillet on this side, but I had one laying around, so I cut the end off so it would fit into the hole, and I just get some of this 610 in there and I squirt it in and swish it around inside the hole. Worked great. And then I also just apply it, I'll just do this one here just to show you, but you know, I just apply it around this thing. And the great thing about this is I don't have to worry about finding a brush. Here you go, everything's on there. And so now I just clean this off. I can just keep using it all the time. I don't have to use a brush. You use it once with epoxy, you're done. So yeah, so this is a good thing I just discovered. I've probably put in thousands of plugs, and it's nice to discover a new trick. So there you go. Got all 3 beam caps in and got them all plugged. So I'm pretty happy with the way they came out. Didn't take too long actually, surprised. Yeah, so now I'm just gonna let them dry overnight. I may give them 2 days, I don't know. I'll see what I'm doing tomorrow, but yeah, next thing for these will be to knock off these plugs, sand everything down, and get everything prepared for varnishing. Hopefully this weekend I can get that started. Well, here we are, back at the boat. The other night I managed to finish sanding all of the ceiling beam caps that I put in over the galley, and all the trim I put over the door hatch area. So today's the first day. It's not too bad out here today. It's a little cool, but It's in the mid-50s, so I'm going to do a little varnishing today, get the first coat on, and then supposed to be nice this weekend. It is Friday, so I'm going to do the other coats on Saturday and Sunday. But I'm probably only going to film today, so rewind, watch it a couple more times, and you'll get a feel for what it takes to get the varnishing done. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it and you come back for the next one, where we will be in the cockpit. And we'll be in the cockpit for quite a few episodes. So hopefully you don't get too bored with it and you stick with me and get through it. So, such as boat building. And there's a lot more after the ones that actually have films going on back there. I may try to break it up with another video here and there. I have a couple little projects I have to work on, a door and door hatch. But we'll have to see how that goes, because I really don't know. I kind of wing this whole deal, and I work on what I work on, and I film what I film and put it out there. So until then, have a good one, and we'll see you really soon right here on Renovation Sportfish.